So, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our Fund to Cure program. And we would like to start off with watching a video from our lovely Fund to Cure families, and they produced it themselves. So please turn your attention to the screens this evening.
Hi, I'm Kaylin Roussel, I'm 16, and I'm from Thibodaux, Louisiana.
Hi, my name is Evan Olivier. I'm 26 years old. I'm from Houma, Louisiana.
Hi, I'm Anna Kate Olivier. I'm 19 years old, and I'm from Houma, Louisiana.
Hey all, my name's Chase Mazer. I am 18 years old, and I'm from Houma, Louisiana.
My house was a whirlwind of emotions, being that my brother was already a type 1, but that day gave me a sense of hope for him and knowing that he won't be alone.
My life has changed in almost every aspect of every day, from my gym routine, my diet, and even my sleep routine.
My life has changed just with the stress with daily activities, but I'm trying not to let it stop my life.
I can just plan my day without any disruptions and just go and do whatever I wanted. Like now I have to think more about what I do because of my diabetes.
I used to take for granted just the simplicity of life and less decision making for my health.
I've learned how to be resilient, how to be dedicated, and have learned how to strengthen my faith.
Since being diagnosed, I have learned that it's okay to struggle because it only makes us stronger.
Others don't see the mental side and the feeling of being burnt out.
The daily injection, the checking the blood sugar, making sure it's at a good range, and carb counting.
How much we are in our heads and how mentally tolling quick decisions every day can be.
That it's not just from eating sugar.
The amount of factors that affect blood sugar, such as adrenaline, hormones, the temperature of your shower, sunburn.
My greatest fear comes whenever I just think about the future. Like I hope to be a mom one day, and just the thought of being pregnant and still having this disease makes me worried, and all the other things that comes with it in the future and other responsibilities that I'll have.
My greatest wish is for a cure.
It's changed a lot over the time that I've been diagnosed, because before I had to measure my insulin with a vial and a needle and mix it with the long acting and the short. And now I have it where I could just do it with pen.
Technology definitely helps and has advanced since I was diagnosed, but we still have constant monitoring and so much stress on our health, and a cure would definitely be a way for freedom.
The mental side, the stress, the worrying.
Being fairly new with this disease, I feel like I'm still trying to learn that I don't need to hide it and that I don't need to be embarrassed about the disease, and rather to embrace it.
It's giving me hope, and it's giving me people that I can lean on and call whenever I need if I'm down.
Being able to see older people experience things as T1Ds themselves that are often looked down on and looked as not achievable for us.
What inspires me is honestly the community of T1D, and just seeing people out there fighting for their life every day. It makes me feel not alone.
I'm grateful for my other friends that also have T1D, and my other supportive friends without T1D, and also my family.
I'm grateful for my family, my friends, God, and that God has brought people in my life that have the same disease as me.
I'm grateful for my boyfriend, my friends, my family, and God. They have truly been my rock through it all and been there for me most when I need comfort.
Something that may appear as just a price tag to a non-diabetic can be the actual price tag of a T1D's life.
After having this disease over 10 years, I've seen so many breakthroughs, and tonight's event gets us one step closer to a cure.
Just that breaks do not come with type 1. It's constant monitoring of our health, and having a cure would give us freedom and peace.
Thank you, and just your presence alone means the world to us.
First and foremost, thank y'all for being here, and it means the world to me and everybody here with this disease. Thank y'all for opening your hearts to possibly donating for a cure.
Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the stage Chase Mazer, Evan and Anna Olivier, and Kaylin Roussel.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chase Mazer. On behalf of myself, Evan, Anna, Kaylin, and our families, we thank you for being here tonight. If you're in this room, Type 1 has touched your life in some way. No one shows up to a night like this by accident. You're here because you care, because you understand, and because this fight matters to you. So thank you for sharing the same mission we all have, and for showing up for a fight that most people in this room will never physically see, but that so many of us live with every single day. Typically, Fund to Cure speeches are diagnosis stories, and yes, we all have one. But tonight, instead of telling just one story, I want to talk about what it actually means to live with Type 1 through different stages of life. Before I go any further, I want to start with something simple. Think about a time when you had something going on that most people around you couldn't see. Maybe it was anxiety before a big meeting, exhaustion you carried quietly, or stress and grief that others couldn't recognize. From the outside, you looked fine, but behind the scenes, the weight was real. That's the closest way we can describe Type 1 diabetes, because for us, it never stops, it never cares, it never gives breaks or sympathy, it's constant, and it's invisible to most people. It's waking up and checking a number before you even get out of bed. It's alarms in the middle of class, alarms in the middle of the night, counting carbs before every meal like the simple act of eating suddenly becomes a math equation. It's correcting highs and treating lows, or doing everything right and still watching the number do whatever it wants. And that's the hardest part to explain. How do you tell someone, I technically did do everything correctly, my body just decided not to cooperate? And sometimes it means realizing that even on the biggest days of your life, diabetes will always still get a vote. For me, I was 12 years old. I was playing soccer, staying busy, doing well in school, just being a normal kid. Then the signs started showing up. I was constantly thirsty, exhausted all the time, and losing weight faster than I should have. I just kept getting sick. After months of misdiagnoses and questions that did not make sense, I ended up in the ICU in diabetic ketoacidosis. In October of 2019, I heard the words, "You have Type 1 diabetes." At 12 years old, you don't fully understand what that means. You're relieved to finally have an answer, but suddenly you have more questions than you know what to do with. You just know life suddenly feels different. You don't realize yet that every meal will require math, that every night will require awareness, and that this isn't something you grow out of. It's something you have to learn to live with. For Evan, it was 2015, back when fewer people were talking about Type 1. Managing meant vials, syringes, drawing insulin from a bottle, and doing the math every single time. Even switching from vial to pen felt intimidating because it meant learning everything all over again. He didn't know anyone else with Type 1. It was isolating, it was new, and for years, it felt like he was figuring it out alone. For Kaylin, she was diagnosed right before Hurricane Ida hit South Louisiana in 2021. Imagine learning you have a lifelong autoimmune disease and then losing normalcy at the exact same time. managing insulin that has to stay cold during one of the worst hurricanes our region has ever seen. And then just a few years later, turning 16, getting her driver's license, gaining independence, and gaining the responsibility of knowing that freedom now comes with blood sugar management behind the wheel. And not just hers, but her parents as well. Kaylin is someone who lives fully. If you don't know her closely, you probably wouldn't even know she has type 1. And while that strength is very powerful, it also means constantly navigating misconceptions about what daily life with this disease actually looks like. At the same time, Kaylin did have something many people don't, a safety net. At her school, there were other students with type 1, there was a nurse's office, and of course, there was her sister Carson. When Kaylin's blood sugar dropped, Carson and other friends were sometimes pulled out of their own classes just to help or simply be there with her. That's when the ripple effect becomes real. Because type 1 doesn't just disrupt one person's day, it disrupts a sibling's education, a family's routine, and the lives of everyone who steps in to help keep someone safe. But here's the thing. It never felt like an inconvenience. Not to parents, not to siblings, not to friends or partners, because type 1 is never just an individual disease. It belongs to everyone who loves the person living with it. And for Anna, Evan's sister, her diagnosis came at the start of her senior year of high school in 2023. Shortly after, she moved 2 hours away to attend college here in Baton Rouge. Go Tigers. She went from having parents steps away to managing everything independently. A new environment, new people, a new routine. She had to teach roommates what her alarms meant and what to do if she needed help. She had to learn to trust others and trust herself. And she's also grown an even greater appreciation and gratitude for her boyfriend, Josh, who has walked by her side since diagnosis. Josh, by the way, is an absolute rock star. I'm pretty sure he can recite the carb count of every one of Anna's favorite meals and list her go-to low snacks without even thinking. But more than anything, he leads with a steadfast patience, strength, and willingness to learn and advocate for her every single day. And as Anna's mom would simply say, he's just a godsend. And I, personally, saw that same kind of support in my own friends. Where I attend school, we don't have school nurses, so my friends became my safety net. They learned what the alarms meant, they constantly watched out for me, and they walked everywhere with me. Yes, even to the bathroom. Genuinely, I felt like I had a Secret Service detail at the ripe age of 6th grade. But one of those friends was my best friend, Molly. After my diagnosis, we practiced what she would do if I passed out. We treated it like a game, but in reality, she was learning how to save my life. No 6th grader should have to rehearse saving their best friend's life. But she did, instantly and without hesitation, and that's when I realized something important. Type 1 really does affect everyone around you. Our parents became full-time parents and full-time pancreases overnight, waking up at all hours, learning every alarm, carrying the fears so we didn't have to. And then something else happened. We found each other. Our families connected through Breakthrough and began doing the One Walk together as the Bayou Betics. I promise that's an old picture. Very quickly, though, we realized we weren't doing this as separate families anymore. We were doing it as one together. Because of this disease, we gained a community. People who get it, people who answer late-night texts, people who celebrate wins like a flat gray line overnight, people who sit with you even when it isn't pretty. We have all been proof of what Galatians chapter 6, verse 2 teaches us. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way, you will fulfill the law of Christ. On the hard days, type 1 can feel isolating. But look around this ballroom. We are surrounded by people who know or love someone with type 1. God took something heavy and built a family out of it. And suddenly, what once felt isolating doesn't feel so lonely anymore. And that's what Breakthrough T1D does. Yes, they fund research. Yes, they advocate. Yes, they push science forward. But they also connect families who would otherwise feel like they're fighting this invisible battle alone. And progress is happening, don't get me wrong. Tonight we heard from Marlena, whose story is living proof of just how far research has come. What once felt impossible is now becoming a reality. But progress isn't finished. Right now, in this ballroom, there are likely people wearing sensors, insulin pumps, and watching numbers on their phones while still smiling and making conversation. You wouldn't know it, but that's the reality of type 1. So tonight, we're not asking out of pity, we're asking out of hope. Give because a cure is within reach. Give because your generosity funds the research that moves stories like Marlena's from possibility to reality for us all. Give because it means better technology for a 16-year-old learning to drive. Give because it means peace of mind for parents sending their child hours away to college. Give because one day, a kid sitting in an ICU bed won't have to hear you have type 1 diabetes and know it's forever. Type 1 may be part of our stories, but it should not be anyone's future. This may have become our normal, but nothing about it is normal. It's not normal for kids to calculate insulin dosages. It's not normal for parents to wake up in fear every night. And it's definitely not normal for a 6th grader to have to rehearse how to save her best friend's life. And as you've heard tonight, there are cures on the horizon, but research costs a lot of money, and there is more to be done. That's why this event matters. That's why donating to fund a cure matters. So please, for us and for every family living with type 1, raise your bid cards high tonight. Together, we can unmask hope and fund a cure. Now is not the time to slow down. It is the time to move forward with urgency, to give generously, to advocate boldly, and to invest in the hope that is closer to reality than ever before. Because with the hope in this room, the hope we all share, the hope that is on the horizon of reality, type 1 will not be the ending of our story. It will simply be the unmasking of the warriors it has built. Thank y'all.
And let's welcome the parents. Woo! Allison and Pierre Olivier, Casey and Tony Russo. There's some beautiful looking people up here. I'm going to move out of the way so the photographers can get some pictures. Thank you all so much. That was beautiful for a 17, 18-year-old to write that speech and produce the video.
It's amazing.
That's Chase Mazer. He has his own photography business. He's literally in high school, graduating in May, has his own photography business. All right, Mike, it's that time of the night.
You're going to make me follow that?
Let's do it.
All righty then. Y'all, they said it better than I possibly could. Everything that you do in this room has an impact, and it makes a change. And I'm asking you all to do that one more time. This is the Fund to Cure portion of our event tonight. I have a handful of levels that I'm going to ask you all at. I'm going to need to ask each and every person to look inside your own heart and inside your own financial situation and put your number up at the level that matches your budget. My only rule for this particular portion is if you cannot put your hands up for the level that I'm asking, to put your hands together for those that can, okay? You think we can do that? Here we go.